On the day of the college entrance exam, my childhood friend Hannah forgot her exam permit at home. My boyfriend insisted on going back to get it for her, but I told him not to. As a result, she missed the social studies section. In despair, she jumped off a building and ended her life. Later, my boyfriend and I both got accepted into Harvard. With an annual salary of millions of dollars and a happy marriage, everything seemed perfect. But on the anniversary of Hannah's death, he stabbed me multiple times, killing me. It's because of you she died. If you had helped Hannah get her exam permit, she wouldn't have been so desperate to commit suicide. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the college entrance exam. My boyfriend's anxious voice rang in my ears, "Emma, I need to go back and get Hannah's permit." This time, I smiled and told him, "Go quickly. Be careful on the way." Welcome to Soy Sam Audio. Thank you for stopping by, and don't forget to follow so you won't miss any of our journeys. Now, let's begin. Half an hour before the exam, I stood at the school gate waiting to enter. Ethan rushed over, drenched in sweat from the summer heat. "Emma, Hannah left her permit at home. I have to go back and get it for her." I calmly nodded. "Go. Be careful." Still breathless, Ethan added, after the natural science section, "Wait for me at the school gate. Let's go buy Hannah a birthday present together." I looked straight into his eyes and firmly rejected him. "No need. I'm just helping Hannah with her permit. There's really nothing between us." I nodded, speaking with indifference. "I know. I just want to break up. We're not right for each other." Ethan stared at me, then laughed mockingly. He turned his head and let out a cold chuckle. "Fine. Break up then. Don't regret it later." With that, he turned away and disappeared into the crowd of students. I watched his back, the corners of my lips curling up unconsciously. "Don't worry, Ethan. This time, the one who regrets won't be me." In my previous life, when Ethan wanted to go back for Hannah's permit, I stopped him. "The exam is about to start. If you don't make it back in time, you'll miss it." Ethan hesitated, but in the end, he listened to me and stayed for the test. When the results came out, Hannah's score dropped drastically because she missed the social studies section. In despair, she took her own life. Later, Ethan and I were both admitted into Harvard. After graduating, we caught the booming wave of the tech industry and smoothly joined a major corporation. In no time, our annual income surpassed $1 million. Love was steady, marriage was like a dream. I always thought Ethan and I were that rock-solid couple who had been together since high school all the way to the wedding altar. A model couple in the eyes of our friends. But after the wedding, on a stormy summer afternoon, Ethan returned home, pulled a knife from his jacket, and stabbed it straight into my heart. Again and again, each strike spilling torrents of blood. Clutching my chest, I stared in disbelief at the man I once loved. His face twisted, his eyes filled with madness. Through gritted teeth, Ethan growled, "It's all because of you. You stopped me from going back to get Hannah's exam permit. If I had made it in time, she wouldn't have killed herself for missing the test. Give me back the love she took with her." Hannah? All this time, I had naively believed they were just childhood friends, growing up side by side. But it turned out the one Ethan had loved, from beginning to end, was always her. What I did out of kindness had turned into a thorn, lodged in his heart for decades. This life, I wish the two of you would just cling tightly to each other. Half an hour later, I sat down for my exam right on time. After 2.5 hours of writing, I finally finished with satisfaction, proud of the 3 years of hard work I had poured into studying. That evening, my parents took me out for a big celebratory meal. I told them confidently that I had done very well, and getting into Harvard wouldn't be a problem. My mom's face lit up with joy. "Excited," she said. "That's wonderful. Once you and Ethan are both at Harvard, you can look after each other." I calmly shook my head. We broke up. My parents froze, their smiles fading into silence. I chuckled softly to reassure them. "Don't worry. Breakup or not, Harvard is still there. It won't disappear because of anyone. Hearing that, my parents burst into laughter, raising their glasses. Then here's to our daughter shining brightly at Harvard. The next morning, just after I woke up, I got a call from my best friend, Sophie. Her voice was trembling with excitement. Emma. Breaking news, you won't believe it. Yesterday, both Ethan and Hannah missed the exam. I stayed quiet for a few seconds before replying calmly. I know. I was there. Wait, what? You didn't stop Ethan? Sophie shrieked in disbelief. I heard your homeroom teacher nearly lost his mind. He had been hoping you and Ethan would both get into Harvard or at least MIT, so the class could be proud. But now, it looks like it's just you. Sophie was still the same energetic 18-year-old girl, but I was no longer the me of 18. In my previous life, if I had heard this news, I would have been restless with worry for Ethan. But in this life, I no longer wanted to get entangled in the karma of others. Even during recess, we would sit and discuss homework, which often drew teasing from the other boys in class. Every time that happened, Ethan's face would flush red, and he would turn to me, stammering an apology. As for me, I could only lower my head, too shy to meet his eyes. Until one day, after school, he confessed to me. At that time, he was tall, athletic, handsome, an outstanding student, the type every teacher saw as a guaranteed Harvard or MIT candidate. Back then, I truly believed I was the heroine of a high school romance, meeting the love of my life. No one could have predicted it would all end so decisively on a rainy night 10 years later. Sophie tried to console me. Other than his looks, Ethan's just another selfish, shallow guy. And Hannah? Please. She spent her days clinging to boys, hanging around with all kinds of troublemakers. If it weren't for her family's money, the school would have called her parents in dozens of times already. Honestly, neither of them is worth anything, they won't last. Asterisk. I chuckled softly, wrapped an arm around Sophie's shoulder, and said, "Don't worry about me. I really don't care anymore. Seeing them together doesn't make me sad, it actually makes me happy. Truly, I hope they cling to each other for life, never letting go." When exam results were released, both Harvard and MIT's admissions teams came straight to my home, competing to recruit me, saying I could choose any major I liked. In my previous life, I had originally planned to major in computer science, but Ethan persuaded me to switch to civil engineering. In the end, I realized in freshman year that I had no passion for it. I struggled desperately through countless sleepless nights, forcing myself to keep up, until I was finally lucky enough to transfer into computer science in my sophomore year. This time, without Ethan interfering, I chose computer science at Harvard right from the start. After finishing my application, Sophie called to invite me out for dessert at the mall. Coincidentally, just as our food was being served, we ran into Ethan and Hannah. "Oh, you guys are here for sweets too? I'm so jealous of you single girls, still having time to go on little dates with your besties. Unlike me, I can't escape Ethan for even a day, he clings to me so much." At that, Ethan smiled gently and said, "Well, it's because you're so adorable. I can't help wanting to be with you all the time." "Stop saying nonsense, there are other people here," Hannah whispered, before tiptoeing up to give him a quick kiss on the lips. "Ah." The room instantly erupted with squeals from the girls nearby. Amid the noisy, excited chatter, Sophie frowned at me and gave a subtle signal with her eyes. I glanced back, but inside, I felt nothing at all. After kissing Ethan, Hannah turned to me with a smug smile. "Emma, going off to college all by yourself must feel pretty lonely, huh? What a shame Ethan couldn't go with you. He'll be studying with me instead." I only smiled without replying. Sophie, however, couldn't hold it in any longer and raised her voice on purpose. "That's right, it must be lonely. But Emma's majoring in computer science at Harvard. Not just anyone can get into that, you know. Funny though, you two are repeating the year, yet still have time to hang out eating desserts. If it were me, I'd already be hitting the books again like crazy, worried sick about exams." Hannah's face flushed crimson. She pointed angrily at Sophie, too furious to speak. Ethan's expression darkened as well, his brows furrowed. His tone was sharp as he looked at me. Emma, you really signed up for computer science? That's a dead-end major. Didn't I already tell you to pick civil engineering? Construction is booming these days, choose wrong, and even if you graduate from Harvard, you won't find a good job. At that, Hannah perked up excitedly. Really, Ethan? She asked. Ethan nodded, putting on an air of superiority. Even Harvard's computer science department can't compare to civil engineering at some private universities. Looks like Emma's future isn't so bright after all, Hannah added smugly. Sophie's face turned red with anger, ready to argue back, but she hesitated, unsure if what Ethan said was true. She looked at me nervously. I gave Ethan a cold glance and replied flatly. What does my choice have to do with you? What game are you playing? No matter what you say, the fact is, I got into Harvard. And you? Which school did you get into? My words left Ethan speechless. His face flushed with rage as he snapped, Harvard isn't even that hard. It's not like I couldn't get in. I just didn't want to. After one more year, I can get into any school I want. Hannah lifted her chin defiantly, glaring at me. That's right. Harvard isn't that impressive. I nodded lightly, replying with calm indifference. You're right. Harvard isn't anything special. Just a little reminder for you too, next year, don't forget your exam permits. Otherwise, you'll be retaking yet another year. Leaving their faces as dark as storm clouds, I took Sophie's hand and walked away. 2 weeks later, my admission letter arrived. When my father saw the words Harvard University, the man who had always been so strict and stoic couldn't hold back his tears. My mother, overwhelmed with joy, snapped over a dozen photos and posted them all over social media. Emma, now that you're in college, you must study hard. Show the world that a daughter can shine just as brightly as any sun. I nodded. In fact, I had already bought plenty of books, planning to study ahead before college started. The more I learned now, the easier it would be to seize opportunities later. My homeroom teacher pulled me up on stage, his voice trembling with emotion as he announced loudly. This is Emma Owens, our outstanding senior from Lincoln Experimental High School, soon to be a freshman at Harvard University. Let's give her a big round of applause. Thunderous clapping filled the auditorium. But just as the applause faded, a voice rang out, quiet, yet clear enough for everyone to hear. If only my son were still dating Emma, maybe he'd be going to Harvard too. The hall instantly fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward the source of the comment, and whispers spread through the crowd. It was Ethan's mother. Both of Ethan's parents were teachers, known for being strict with their son. Surely, they had never imagined he would do something so reckless. At that moment, Hannah's mother suddenly stormed forward, her voice sharp with accusation. And what exactly do you mean by that? She demanded, one hand on her hip, the other pointing straight at Ethan's mother's face. Startled, Ethan's mother stumbled back 2 steps. Ethan's father quickly caught her and snapped, and what part of what she said was wrong? If it weren't for your daughter forcing my son to go back and get her exam permit, why would he have failed the exam? Hannah's mother, covered in flashy jewelry, her whole demeanor screaming of arrogance, sneered and barked. What do you mean forcing? Your son chased after my daughter willingly, desperate to please her. If he failed, he deserved it. At that, Hannah's father stepped up, letting out a cold laugh at Ethan's father. Oh, and here I thought you were someone important. Turns out you're just a poor small-town schoolteacher. Apologize now, and maybe we'll still consider becoming in-laws. But if you don't know your place, don't blame us for being ruthless. Ethan's father, a man of honesty who was used to being respected in the academic world, had never faced such humiliation. He was so shaken that he couldn't find the words to respond, his hands trembling as he pulled at his son's arm. Ethan, tell us, were you forced to get that exam permit? Is that why you failed? But Ethan's face darkened, his patience gone. He shook his father's hand off forcefully. Enough already. How long are you all going to keep making a scene? Hannah is the purest girl I've ever met. How could anyone say she forced me? Everything I did was my choice. Being with Hannah is my dream. So what if I failed college? Ethan's parents went pale, their fingers trembling as they pointed at him. You ungrateful son. We worked so hard to raise you, and this is how you repay us? But Ethan's expression was cold, his tone flat. If you feel ashamed because of me, then cut ties. From now on, I'll recognize Hannah's parents as my real mom and dad. As long as I'm filial to them, that's enough. Hannah's mother burst out laughing, her voice dripping with mockery. Did you hear that, you two poor school teachers? Ethan wants to recognize me and my husband as his real parents. Go home and cry in each other's arms. Hannah wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck, her voice syrupy sweet. Uncle, Auntie, after Ethan marries me, he'll be both my brother and my boyfriend. Once we're married, we'll be one family. As for you two, disappear from our sight. Ethan bent down and planted a light kiss on Hannah's lips. Then he turned toward his own parents, his words hitting them like a slap to the face. That's right, Uncle, Auntie, from now on, we have nothing to do with each other. You can go. Hearing that, Ethan's mother collapsed, fainting on the spot. The entire banquet hall erupted into chaos. Some rushed to her side, some called for an ambulance, while others just stood and sighed. Ethan, however, only rolled his eyes, as if none of it concerned him, and walked away indifferently with Hannah's family. In the end, Ethan's parents had to leave in the ambulance. Teachers and classmates were so shaken that the appreciation banquet broke up in a cloud of gloom. On the way home, Sophie was seething with anger, gritting her teeth. Ethan is truly worthless, how could he treat his own parents like that? His mother fainted, and he didn't even spare her a glance. I nodded in agreement. In my past life, I had witnessed Ethan's cruelty firsthand. He had been able to murder the wife who had stood by his side through 10 years of love, all for Hannah. In this life, abandoning his parents came as no surprise. Sophie ranted on, and look at Hannah's family, loud, vulgar, the kind of people that make everyone sick. I heard they even run an underground casino. No wonder they behave so shamelessly. I can't help thinking Ethan's just chasing after their money. I didn't bother to care, only replied casually, probably. Sophie huffed, I can't wait to see how those two freaks end up when they're stuck together for life. I smiled faintly. To be honest, I was curious too. A month later, just before the start of college, I was at home with my parents, packing my luggage. Unexpectedly, Ethan showed up at our door. He peered inside and said politely, Auntie, I'm Emma's classmate. I heard she's leaving for Boston soon, and I'd like to say a few words to her. My mother agreed and called me out. Out in the hallway, it was just the two of us. I spoke first, my voice flat. What do you want to say? Make it quick. Ethan frowned, studying my face closely. His staring made me uncomfortable, so I pulled the door open, ready to head back inside. If you've got nothing to say, I'm leaving. He quickly reached out to stop me. Emma, you're still angry at me, aren't you? I looked at him, puzzled. He gave a smug little smile. I knew it. Getting dumped must have been humiliating for you. But honestly, anyone would have chosen Hannah over you. She's beautiful, gentle, obedient. I love her to death. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ethan, did you really come all the way here just to brag about how much you love Hannah? Seeing my indifference, he began to panic. Emma, stop pretending. I know you still can't let me go. At the teacher appreciation banquet, you kept staring at me. If you still like me, just say it, we can still be friends. Don't worry, Hannah's very understanding, she won't get jealous. Looking at his overconfident face, I honestly didn't know whether to laugh or pity him. There had been hundreds of people at that banquet, of course I looked at him at some point. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I cut him off flatly. You misunderstood. I have zero interest in being friends with you. Do you have anything else to say? My calmness left Ethan visibly disappointed. He sneered. Don't think Harvard makes you so special. These days, a degree isn't worth what it used to be, especially computer science, a major no one even cares about. Hannah's parents run their own business. I'm learning so much from them. Later, we'll attend a local university, inherit the family business, and be our own bosses. We'll definitely live better than you. I patiently listened to his entire boastful speech. When he finally finished and looked at me expectantly, I didn't even flinch. I simply nodded and replied blandly. Got it. Well then, good luck. With that, I slammed the door in his face, leaving him standing in the hallway. After enrollment, I officially stepped through the gates of Harvard. Having lived this life once before, I planned my college years with far greater clarity. Not only did I study diligently to keep my GPA at the top of the program, I also joined numerous research projects, proactively reached out to leading professors, and built strong academic connections. These efforts not only propelled me further in the field of research but also laid a solid foundation should I one day decide to start my own company. By the end of my first semester, I easily earned the title of top student in my major, along with a research scholarship. My reputation began spreading in academic circles. That winter break, when I returned home, Sophie dragged me out for a walk downtown, her face brimming with excitement. Emma, did you hear? Big news, Hannah is pregnant. I frowned slightly at the news. Sophie caught my expression, her face saying, I know, you didn't expect this either, before she continued excitedly. You don't know the half of it. After retaking the year, the Zhang family rented them an apartment near the school. A boy and a girl living together, no adults around, of course things were bound to happen. And from then on, Ethan practically glued himself to Hannah, stopped caring about studying altogether. When the teachers tried to lecture him, he'd say, I'm still smarter than the bottom of the class repeat students. Even if I study casually, I'll get into Harvard anyway. He made the teachers so angry they gave up on him. Later, Hannah's belly started getting bigger and bigger, she couldn't even hide it under her school uniform anymore. That's when everyone realized she was pregnant. But instead of getting angry, her parents filed a leave of absence request, telling her to rest and focus on the baby, and she could continue studying after giving birth. Sophie leaned closer, eyes wide. So? Emma, isn't this some top-tier drama? I smiled and nodded. Sophie sighed, confused. I just don't get it. How did Ethan turn out like this? Back in high school, I thought he was kind of attractive, good-looking, smart. You two standing together looked just like the male and female leads of some romance novel. But now? He's no different from those delinquent guys who knock someone up before marriage. I sipped my drink and replied flatly, who knows? You can see someone's face, but not their heart. Some people are just really good at hiding their true selves. Before heading back to campus, I stopped by the mall to buy a few new outfits. Unexpectedly, I ran straight into Hannah, her belly already huge. I intended to quietly avoid her, but she spotted me first and blocked my way, her face smug. She looked me up and down, her voice sticky sweet. Well, long time no see, old classmate. Why do you still look so clueless and nerdy? Even in college, all you know how to do is bury yourself in books. I didn't bother to reply, just gave her a cold look. Hannah gently stroked her belly, pretending to be shy. I don't even know how it happened, but here I am, pregnant with Ethan's child. He dotes on me so much, treats me so well. In just a few months, our baby will be born, and we'll be a happy family of 3. Ethan even said he's willing to give up Harvard to stay here, just to take care of me and the baby. Tell me, doesn't that prove how much he loves me? I chuckled lightly and answered, yes, he really does love you. After all, it's rare to see someone have a baby at 18. Catching the sarcasm in my words, Hannah's face darkened. She snapped. Emma, even if you're jealous, it's useless. Ethan still chose me and abandoned you, didn't he? What's the point of being good at studying? Guys don't like girls like you. They like gentle girls who know how to care for others and give them a sense of family. Can you do that? Her eyes swept over me from head to toe, full of disdain. Honestly, with that plain figure and outdated clothes, I don't know who would even bother looking at you. Just then, her phone rang. Hannah glanced at the caller ID and deliberately shot me a provocative look before answering. Her voice turned syrupy sweet. I know, honey. I'll be home soon. Don't miss me too much, okay? Mwah, mwah. She gave me one last triumphant glance, then waddled off with her swollen belly. I couldn't help but find it amusing. Two 18-year-olds raising a baby, now that was going to be something worth watching. By senior year, I had smoothly secured a guaranteed spot in graduate school, working under a professor I deeply admired. With plenty of free time, I prepared my master's thesis proposal while also starting to build my own startup plan. But during a holiday back home, I unexpectedly ran into Ethan outside my apartment building. He looked as though he had been waiting for a while. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. He hurried over, rubbing his hands nervously. Emma, long time no see. How's life in Boston treating you? I nodded lightly. It's fine. He forced an awkward smile. Ah, so, you're preparing for grad school, right? I heard it's really tough to get in these days. I replied curtly. I already got direct admission. Ethan froze, his eyes wide in shock. What, you got a straight pass? Haha. I guess it makes sense. Only top schools like yours would give that kind of opportunity. But still, everyone says a master's degree doesn't mean much anymore. Especially in majors no one's even heard of, like yours. Honestly, if you told me the right place to work, I could make tens of thousands a month without even studying further. Then he added, almost casually. By the way, do you know anyone in Boston? I might move there too. Staying in one place forever isn't good for my future. I shut him down coldly. No. Anything else? I'm going back inside. He laughed awkwardly, nodding quickly. Right, okay then, see you around. I didn't bother with him, turning on my heel and heading straight home. Later, Sophie came to visit and was practically bursting with gossip. Emma, I heard Ethan went to see you. He even asked if you had connections in Boston, right? I nodded in confirmation. Sophie clapped her hands in excitement and went on. Well, now I get why he's acting so strange. Turns out, after Hannah gave birth, she never went back to school. She's been a full-time mom ever since. Ethan suffered heavily from the fallout, his studies were a complete mess. In the end, even after retaking the exams, he still failed to get into a good school and only managed to enroll at a mediocre private college in the province. At first, because of his good looks and once strong academic record, a few girls in his department confessed to him. But Ethan, arrogant as ever, neither accepted nor rejected them, just strung them along. Eventually, one girl even showed up at his apartment to confront him, only to run straight into Hannah, who was carrying their baby home. Hannah immediately exploded, dragging the girl into a fight right there. The humiliated girl stormed back to campus and exposed the truth: Ethan was already married with a child. The entire school turned against him. Still, Ethan clung to the glory of his past as a top student, refusing to study seriously or pick up practical skills. He believed that once he graduated, he could rely on the Zhang family's shady business dealings to get rich. But lately, the local government had begun cracking down hard on illegal trades. The Zhang family's underground businesses came under heavy scrutiny. Just as Hannah gave birth, their family finances collapsed. Rumor had it that her mother even had to sell off jewelry just to cover daily expenses. Sophie was furious. Emma, tell me, isn't this exactly what Ethan deserves? He chose Hannah, but still went around flirting with other girls. Serves him right. Oh, and get this, after Ethan announced he was cutting ties, his parents decided to have another child. Now they're a happy family of 3, living as if Ethan never even existed. I was a little surprised, I hadn't heard that part before. But thinking it over, I realized it was the right choice. Why keep such an ungrateful son around to cause endless pain? Back at school, my graduate studies progressed smoothly. Within 2 years, I had published 2 research papers under my professor's guidance, both of which were accepted by academic journals. One company even reached out, inviting me to serve as a research consultant. Just from a single project, my consulting fee was $10,000 a month. With that, I quickly accumulated the first substantial savings of my career. That summer, I returned home and attended a class reunion with Sophie. After several years apart, I once again came face to face with Ethan. What shocked me was how old he looked. His hair was messy, his once fair complexion now sallow and dull, his face lined with wrinkles. Anyone looking at him would have thought he was already in his 30s. Even more shocking, he seemed to have a limp, one leg clearly impaired. When Ethan stepped into the private room, every gaze in the place turned toward him. One former classmate spoke mockingly. "Oh look, Mr. Third-Rate College is here. What's wrong with your leg, why are you limping like that?" Everyone burst out laughing, clearly already knowing the story but dragging it out to humiliate him. Ethan forced a stiff smile and muttered awkwardly, "Just, from work. Just the job, nothing serious." Then he slunk off to a corner, pulling in his leg as though to hide it. But of course, no one intended to let him off so easily. "Hey, Mr. Third-Rate College, didn't you once say you could pass Harvard even if you took the exam half-heartedly? So why did you end up in some bottom-tier private school instead? Not planning on grad school either?" Another guy slapped him on the shoulder with a smirk. "Come on, who cares about academics? He's tied himself to the John family now, he'll be fine as long as he leeches off them." The room erupted in laughter again. Ethan's smile froze on his face. He lowered his head and gulped down his drink in silence. Sophie nudged me quietly, whispering in my ear. "Do you know how Ethan's leg ended up like that?" I turned my head. "How?" Lowering her voice, she said. "After graduating from that private college, he started working at the John family's casino. But it was right when the government started cracking down hard on shady businesses. He made barely any money, and Hannah kept him on a tight leash, he was suffocating. Eventually, he hooked up with some older rich woman, but Hannah caught them in the act. Ethan tried to run, pants half on, and got hit by a car while crossing the street. That's how he ended up crippled." I let out a cold laugh. "So, is he still with Hannah now?" Sophie rolled her eyes. "Think about it. What does he even have left? Poor grades, no skills, and now crippled with one leg. Even his own parents disowned him. Without clinging to Hannah's family, he'd be sleeping under a bridge by now." I stayed quiet, saying nothing more. When the reunion ended, Ethan suddenly blocked my path at the exit. "Emma, can I have a word with you?" Sophie looked at me nervously, but I nodded and followed him to a corner. He stood there, limping, his eyes complicated as they lingered on me. "Emma, you're not the same as back in high school anymore." I arched a brow. "Oh? And how am I different?" He lowered his head, looking almost ashamed. You're prettier than before. Your whole presence, your aura, it's completely different. Girls from big cities really are on another level. The girls around here can't even compare. You don't know, these days, life at home is unbearable. Hannah's like an old housewife now, always with the kid, never taking care of herself. Not like you, you're still slender, stylish, so refined." I sneered. "Is that so?" "Funny, I still remember you once said Hannah was beautiful, gentle, obedient. You swore you loved her to death." Ethan's face turned pale, panic flashing in his eyes. "Emma, back then I didn't know any better, I chose the wrong person. Now I realize I was wrong. Could you give me another chance? The truth is, I never forgot you. Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh. Ethan, where on earth do you get the confidence to think that after all these years, I'd still like you? He fell silent, turning away to wipe his tears. Emma, if only I hadn't gone back to fetch that exam permit for Hannah. Things would have been different. We would have both gotten into Harvard, built our careers, and lived a life of happiness together. I said nothing. A cold wind blew past, making me shiver slightly. Ethan, if you hadn't gone back for Hannah that day, then I would have been the one who regretted it for the rest of my life. Everything today, you brought it upon yourself. After returning to Boston, I smoothly graduated with my master's degree and joined a small tech startup. My teachers and friends didn't understand my choice. But I knew, 2 years later, this company would rise to prominence. Had I not lived through this once before, I would never have seized such an opportunity. The company was in a rapid growth phase, the workload overwhelming. I barely had time to breathe. It wasn't until Sophie called that I realized nearly a year had passed. Her voice on the phone was full of excitement. Emma, I've got some explosive news for you. The Zhang family went bankrupt. My hand trembled slightly at the mention of that name. Sophie went on, just recently, all of the Zhang's illegal businesses were wiped out. Hannah's parents were arrested, and I heard the sentences are going to be very heavy. Now Hannah and Ethan are jobless, dragging their kid to the gates of our old high school every day to sell street food. People say they argue constantly, sometimes even fight in public. I only answered softly, inside, not a ripple stirred. Curious, Sophie asked, Emma, don't you think Ethan deserves this? If he hadn't gone back for Hannah's permit, he'd probably be a Harvard grad by now, earning $500,000 a year. I wonder if he regrets it when he thinks back on it all. I smiled faintly. Who knows? 2 years later, the tech company I worked at went public successfully. I officially achieved financial freedom. Friends introduced me to a guy 3 years younger than me, Chris, an American-born Chinese. He had thick brows, bright eyes, sharp features, and a defined 8-pack. We clicked instantly, and every meeting with him was lighthearted and joyful. That new year, I brought him home to meet my family. When Sophie heard I was back, she pestered me endlessly to bring my boyfriend out. She insisted she had to finally meet the handsome mixed-blood guy she'd been dying to see. With no other choice, I took Chris out with me. As we walked and chatted, before long we reached the gates of our old high school. It was close to Lunar New Year, and the area around the school was deserted. Suddenly, the sound of shouting drifted through the cold wind. The school's closed now, why bother setting up a stall here? If we don't sell, how else are we supposed to survive? Every cent counts. Otherwise, where's the money for our kids' tuition going to come from? It's all your fault, I'm suffering because you're useless. My fault? If you hadn't forced me to run back for that exam permit years ago, I'd have gotten into Harvard. You ruined my life. Before the words even faded, the couple by the tricycle lunged at each other, fists flying. Curses and screams echoed through the empty street. Before Sophie and I could even react, Chris rushed forward. He pulled them apart, speaking Mandarin in his slightly accented voice. If there's a problem, talk it out, don't hit a woman. Ethan spun around, ready to curse, but when he looked up and saw me and Sophie, he froze. Emma. Hannah saw me too. In a fury, she rushed out from behind Chris and slapped Ethan hard across the face. You bastard. What are you staring at her for? You treat me like garbage, but deep down you're still thinking about that slut, aren't you? Ethan snapped, shoving her back, the two of them clawing at each other. You stupid woman, you destroyed my life. If not for you, Emma and I would have gotten into Harvard. You stole my brilliant future, and you owe me for that. I simply waved my hand, calling Chris back. The three of us quickly left the scene. After walking some distance, Chris was still shaken. So rude, so frightening. Sophie doubled over with laughter, clutching her stomach. Emma, your young boyfriend is adorable. I chuckled softly, reaching up to ruffle Chris's hair. After saying goodbye to Sophie, Chris and I headed home. Just as we reached my apartment, he gently took my hand. The winter sun in the north bathed everything in golden light. He pressed a tender kiss to my forehead, his eyes shimmering like stars. "Emma, after Lunar New Year, will you come home with me to meet my parents?" I looked into those eyes, filled with sincerity, and nodded gently. "Yes,